Hey, number ones, welcome back to my channel. So, today we have a question for you. Should you learn Chinese or Japanese? And what do I mean by we? Have I gone mad? Have I reached the final culmination of my complete insanity by going into plural of majesty, plurale maestatis, royal we? No, I'm talking about that this is a question from this channel. Rafi Puff. So, it's an interesting question, one that I had to ask myself when I was a student at university. So without further ado, let's see what the answer is.
So, if you clicked on this video, chances are you want to learn an East Asian language.
Oh yeah, bro. I've been working on that for decades.
I mean, no wonder. Both Chinese and Japanese are completely fascinating languages to the eyes of a Westerner.
Agreed.
I mean, they both sound and especially look completely different.
Beautiful.
But yet, we're still seeing more examples of them reaching into our pop culture, like Chinese being used in memes more and more, and Chinese songs becoming popular. I don't think I even need to talk about anime, where the appeal isn't just cool-looking cartoons, you know, but even more so, I would say, how the language sounds, how, you know, elegant it is.
And the culture, because I find while anime, according to some people, might be considered a sub-Japanese culture, at the end of the day, it exposes you to a lot of cultural aspects of Japanese, whether it be the way they are, their politeness, their history, their traditions, the way they act, and the beauty of their country. So at the end of the day, I think if someone tells you that they like Japan or they want to learn Japanese because of anime, it's not a silly statement. You might think it is if you think, oh, just because of the anime. But the anime, you know, anime is rich and it shows reality at the end of the day. It's different, it's drawn. But by the way, some of those anime mangaka and manga artists and anime, they freaking draw the streets, the buildings exactly like it. It's insane. It's not a small thing. It exposes you to the richness of the culture.
を受けて当然な悪人が心臓麻痺で死んでいく裏で。
心臓麻痺だ。No, I don't want to have a heart attack.
そうすれば確実に世界はいい方向に進んでいく。そして僕は新世界の神となる。
Now, if
新世界の神となる. Bro, I watched the entirety of the Death Note in Japanese as a student, as a way to practice before an exam. I watched the entire thing, given shinzo mahi, shinzo hossa, and all the different ways to say heart attack. Yeah, I mean, I didn't use those. But let me tell you, I did use a couple of special words and the professor was impressed.
If you ever thought about studying an East Asian language, you know, you might have also wondered, which one of these should I choose?
Right.
Now, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to try to give you a fair comparison that might help you choose between them.
Okay.
So first of all, the writing systems, which is something that immediately catches the eye of anyone who's ever come to contact with either Chinese or Japanese.
The writing system in both of these languages requires you to know between 1,500 and 2,500 characters to understand, for example, 95% of what you read on the internet, 90% of what you read in the newspapers, provided that...
I think, yeah, for newspapers, you would have to go to 2,500 at least, because in general, I think everyday alphabetization, unless it has changed, it's around 2,000. I used to know the number, but then they do change it. The government, the Department of Education in Japan, at least, they change it every so often. So is it 1,906? I mean, it changes, but around 2K. That's the number of kanji that I did learn. Now I'm a little rusty now, but that's generally speaking the number of kanji that I knew when I was in Japan, living there, and I could easily read everyday stuff and some little harder things too. But if you gave me a newspaper, I struggled. I want to be honest with you. Like I could read the water bill, but the newspaper was always a little difficult for me.
It's not a highly specialized topic, which I mean, 1,500 and 2,500 both can sound like a lot. But I can assure you though, the characters aren't random. The more characters you memorize, the easier it becomes to learn new ones and recognize patterns between them. Like for example, the Japanese character for sea, umi, and the Japanese character for pond, ike, both have these three dots.
Ah, nice pronunciation.
Which symbolizes water, that it has something to do with water. Or
the semantic field.
that the Chinese characters hai and gai
both sound similar because of this part of the character. My point is, though, you will need to learn roughly the same amount of characters in both languages if you want to become fluent.
Some overlap, but the pronunciation is going to be very different.
So don't think that you need to learn less in one and more in the other.
True.
It's roughly the same amount of daily used characters. However, rest your mind, and I feel like this is one of the things that a lot of people don't realize, is that you don't actually need to learn how to write them. Because usually, even native speakers, they type out the characters, You can just download a
Okay, that's true. However, I would still recommend to learn how to write them properly. There is no reason, if you're going for a language like this and you mean it, not like something you want to do a little bit because you have a hobby, but you don't actually want to know. If you want to learn it properly, I would suggest to not try to get lazy about it. Because at the end of the day, while it is true that a lot of Japanese are forgetting how to write the kanji, I've seen it happen, but they did go through it. And while they will forget and they will have to look it up occasionally, generally speaking, the majority of the population can write. Again, it happens. They forget, and then they look it up, and then they write it. The thing is, though, that while technology has made it harder for Japanese themselves to remember how to write, if you need to pass a test, like a Nihongo no Ryoku Shiken, so the Japanese language proficiency test, you gotta learn how to write. So, and if you want to do any business, or if you want to use it for any work-related scenarios, don't skip the writing. Also because it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Chinese or Japanese keyboard and type it out in Roman letters, and then the keyboard will automatically let you choose. You don't need to remember the strokes. When's the last time you wrote somebody a letter?
Yeah, it's not just for writing letters, though. It's part of living in Japan and having an experience as close as possible to that of a Japanese. And the children, they grow up writing the characters. And to me, there is a certain aspect of cathartic beauty into actually trying to express the language and manifest it the way they do. It's a matter of respect. You don't have to learn to write, I guess, all 2,000 kanji if you're not interested in actually getting a certification. But at least the core kanji you should be able to write. That's just my take.
The one difference, though, between Japanese and Chinese writing systems is that Japanese also has hiragana and katakana, which are syllabaries, It's basically a writing system in which you can sound out the words without having to use Chinese characters.
Yeah, konnichiwa.
Because, both Japanese and Chinese use Chinese characters. But you can't actually read any coherent text unless it's something specifically written in a simplified way for children. For Chinese, Taiwan has something similar, which is called bo po mo fo, which is also roughly 40 symbols representing each letter. But
this guy is very well prepared. I appreciate that.
That is only used in Taiwan and not in mainland China or Hong Kong or Singapore. Okay, so that doesn't really count.
Pronunciation, all right, let's see.
Moving on to something that actually does make a big difference, which is Chinese tones and Japanese pitch accent.
Love it.
The pronunciation in Chinese for beginners is oftentimes difficult to grasp because of each word having a tone. Now change the tone and you also change the meaning of the word.
Absolutely. Not to mention that the tones modulate. So what tone you use may influence the following tone. This is something you learn. It's not impossible, by the way, but it does require a certain level of focused attention. How long ago did he make this video? 1 year ago. He probably learned by now, but I'm just going to say maybe the music a tiny little bit lower. I made this mistake so many times and I've angered so many people in the comments that I think I've learned my lesson by now.
For example, sure with a flat tone means poem, but sure with a falling and rising tone means shit. As you can see, the meaning can change quite drastically. Some people would argue
usually not the example they use in academia, but hey, it works.
That when you're a foreigner speaking to Chinese people, your tones don't matter as much because the Chinese people, they'll just take your words with a grain of salt and try to, guess what you mean based on context. But I feel like that is the case only when talking about simple topics, because when you start talking about more difficult topics, that's when you really need to start using and listening for tones to avoid miscomprehension,
He's correct. And also that statement, I've heard people say that, but you're not Chinese, so don't worry about the tones. They have they're idiots. I'm just going to say they're clowns. It's just the people that will never excel. It's an excuse to be lazy. And it's even worse than the one about writing, because tones are a fundamental component of Chinese. So if you don't want to learn the tones, don't pick up a tonal language. It's really that simple. No one is forcing you at gunpoint to be like, no, you have to learn a tonal language. You don't. If you don't want to, not to mention for me, it will make it 50 times less interesting because I freaking love the tones. Given that for some people they're harder, for sure, but oftentimes it's not even a matter of talent or having the ear. Some people are naturally more inclined to noticing the characteristic or subtle differences between tones, 100%, particularly if you're musically trained. But at the end of the day, if you have someone to navigate you and help you pick up the differences between the tones, so ma, 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 ma. Note that I did not do a full third tone because that's mostly the academic way to do it. In everyday speech, they don't pronounce it fully. The ma, most of the times it's just ma. It's kind of half a third, unless it's at the end of a sentence or in isolation. Those usually are the differences. It takes someone to guide you and sort of correct you. But man, the tones are so fun. I just don't get it when people, and there are plenty of people to say what he just said. Oh, don't worry about it, you're not Chinese either, they'll understand you. It's like, what's the point? Like, just learn the language, right?
With Japanese, there's something similar, but far less important than in Chinese. And it's called pitch accent.
Yes.
That can also sometimes change the meaning of the word. Like, for example, ame with a low-high pitch accent means rain, but ame with a high-low.
It's the other way around, though. Ame, high-low is rain, and ame, low-high is a candy. I think you got confused. Not a big deal. I make mistakes all the time, but that's just how it is. So, but he's correct. That's a good example. The other one is hashi and hashi, hana, hana. There are a
pitch
few
accent
like
means candy. However, distinguishing the meaning of individual words based on what pitch accent you put on them is far less common in Japanese than it is in Chinese.
Okay, so that's true. We'll see what other example he gives. That's very nice. I'll listen to him and his pitch. Do you have to learn pitch in order to become fluent in Japanese? No. However, I personally love studying pitch, and it's difficult. It takes a lot of time. Do not for a second believe the people that tell you, oh, I just learned it naturally. They suck at it. It's just Dunning-Kruger effect. They think they're good. They're not. And in general, if you're someone who is fine, you're fine with having kind of a thick accent. Maybe you pronounce well, but your pitch is all over the place. It's fine. You'll never be mistaken for a Japanese. But if you don't care about that, on the phone, obviously, because, I mean, if your face looks like mine, whatever. But I'm saying, like, in general scenarios, you're like, clearly you're foreign, but you don't have a problem with that. It's totally fine. You don't have to do the pitch. But if you're one of those who says, oh, I'm so good, my pronunciation is so good, then study pitch, because otherwise it's a waste of time. It's not. It's one of the important components, okay? Anyways, let's see what examples he gives us.
Every word still has its own proper way to be pronounced with pitch accent, so if you want to be fluent and sound like a Japanese speaker, you will need to pay attention to it. However, you can go in your Japanese learning journey past N1, which is the highest level, without ever learning pitch accent. That is also possible.
It is, but to me, it's not the greatest example, because you could pass N1 and your pronunciation could be awful. Not just pitch accent, but you could literally say arigato. It wouldn't matter. So we're not even talking about, do you say arigato with the actual pitch, or do you say without the pitch, but maybe still well pronounced? No, you could completely butcher it, konnichiwa, and you could still pass N1. It's kind of rare, because usually if you have put that kind of level of study into the Japanese language as to pass N1, usually you're at least decent at pronunciation and speaking, but it's not a requirement because there isn't a spoken component. It's just how much do you understand, how well do you know your kanji, how well do you write, your grammar, your overall understanding of vocabulary, and then you can pass N1. So your pronunciation could literally suck and you could pass it. So there is that. All right.
Now let's talk about grammar. During my years of studying both languages, and I would say most learners would agree with me, I have concluded that Japanese is easier to get into because of, let's say, easier pronunciation, but gets harder as you study on an intermediate or more advanced level because of grammar. On the other hand, Chinese is a lot tougher to get into because of, you know, the intricate pronunciation, not only the tones, but also the consonants. But once you get a hang of the pronunciation, it actually
like the difference between sh and sh.
It gets easier because the grammar is not that hard and it's pretty intuitive. On top of that, Chinese doesn't use honorifics, so the sentences don't change based on what kind of politeness level you want to express to the listener.
With the exception being the pronouns, because you can say ni or nin if you want to be polite, but it's not to the same level as, like, I mean, he's right. There is Sonkeigo, Kenjogo, and all those in Japanese. I didn't bother with the pictures here. I was just saying it quickly. And Tene and all of that.
It's just always the same, very similar to English. Whereas in Japanese, you know, honorifics, the level of how much polite you want to be affect the word choice, affect the sentence endings, affect the way you start talking to someone.
Yeah, he's right. I would say that level of politeness can affect word choice in Mandarin, but not to the same level. That would be my comeback to that.
You know, it has all of these different nuances based on your age, your position in the company, your position in school. I mean, like, if you're a junior or a senior, you know, if you're a boy or a girl, you know, those are all things that affect in which way you should speak Japanese, so people don't look at you weird like, what the hell did he just say? Now that I've given you 3 aspects of these languages, I want to get down to brass tacks, okay? I want to emphasize that what really matters when choosing a language is how interested you are
100%. I agree. 1000%.
in the particular language. It's a very personal choice, and it also depends on what you want to use the language for. If you are naturally more interested in Japanese, you want to, for example, travel to Japan multiple times throughout your life, or you want to read manga, you know, in the original print, or whatever it may be, don't choose Chinese simply because, for example, it has easier grammar.
He's absolutely right, because you'll give up. You'll quit the one you're not interested in, even if, from an objective standpoint, it might be easier on elements that could be daunting to you. He's right.
On the other hand, because of how limited Japanese is, you know, it's only spoken in one country and the population is declining, let's be real, don't learn it just because it's popular right now. Like, if you're not inherently interested in Japanese, don't learn it just because it's the popular language. You know, it really depends on what you want to use the language for. So, for example, if you're just interested in learning another East Asian language, you know, China is becoming a global economic superpower. So it could, you know, help you in many ways in your career. You see what I'm trying to do here? It's like, at the end of the day, it is your interests that are going to be the thing that motivates you to persist in learning the language. Because, to be honest, both of these languages are a pain in the ass to learn, so...
They can be, yes, he's absolutely right. Yeah, cool video. Anyways, really appreciated it. Thank you for making it. And guys, don't forget to click the link in the description or the pinned comment to go check out his channel if you want to subscribe, if you want to watch his the other content that he puts forth. And thank you for watching and joining Metatron's Academy. Have a good one. If you're enjoying this video so far, please take a moment to check out my Patreon page. With as little as a $5 support, you can help us ensure that we can continue to produce high quality and high researched content. And at the same time, you get access to polls, extra videos, unlisted streams, and much more. Thank you so much.